Today we'll be looking at the compare keyword and some conditional jumps. So this will lay the foundation of conditionals in programming. So you can see it like an introduction to if statements of some sorts, but let's get into it and see some code in action. So I'll go ahead and open my file. I will name it maybe I will name it cmp.s. You can name it whatever you want. Then go here and define our normal section, which is the text section where we'll be writing our source code. Then define our global start, and then start our symbol. So in assembly, there is no such a structure like if statement defined or embedded in the language, but you can use some few keywords or labels or instructions to achieve that. So, and one of let's start by testing by comparing two numbers. So CMP is for, you can see it for by comparing two numbers inside registers. So let me move some values. As usual, our favorite register EX, so 20, then EBX, we can move something like 10. Then here you can use the CMP keyword for compare. What do you want to compare? EAX and EBX. So what this typically what happens behind the hood? So it takes EAX, which is equals to 20, and subtracts EBX, which is equals to 10. So if the result will be 0, a flag will be updated inside the processor. A flag named the 0 flag. So there is this concept of e-flags. I will make a video on it in depth, but see it like something that keep tracks of the state of an operation. If we subtract these two numbers, we get a 0. The 0 flag, and they are the E flags, one of them being the 0 flag, it is updated to 1. If the result was 0, it will be updated to 1. If the result was a non-zero, it will remain as a 0, but it starts at a 0. But I will make a video on that, but just know like this comparison operation here performs a subtraction behind the scenes, then updates the flag. Then now we can use now conditional jumps. So we have seen jumps in the previous video, but you can now jump conditionally. You can say if this is equal to this, jump to a certain label. So let us see if let us check for equality. So to check for equality, the conditional jump is JE. So jump if equal. So jump if equal where? So you have to define a label. So maybe I will name it equal. Then over here we can maybe define. So, or before doing that, let us finish here. So jump if equal. If equal, jump to the equal label over here. If the operation will be equal, meaning if the subtraction between these two numbers will be a 0, this means that the numbers are equal. If else, the number is not equal. In our case, our numbers are not equal, but let us write our program. So let me define a string where we'll be seeing something if it is equal. So again, using section data, then over here we'll define a string. So I'll name it message, 1 byte of equal, like that, equal. Then we'll get the length as usual, then the MSG, just like that. Then over here, what we'll do over the equal label will be, so we'll move into EAX. So we move into EAX 4 for system write, then we move 1 to EBX to write, to do the actual write, then ECX the pointer, which is message, then move to EDX the length, which was MSG len, then make an interrupt int ATH. Then at the bottom over here, let us go on and maybe exit our program. So move into EAX 1 for system exit. So move to EBX the return code 0. Then again we'll go ahead and interrupt it. So this the program, what it does, we have moved the value 20 into EAX, the value 10 into EBX. Then we have done a comparison here using the CMP keyword. We are comparing EAX to EBX. So behind the hood, it will perform a subtraction. If the result will be 0, the result is equal. If it is a non-zero, it is not equal. In our case, this is not a non-zero, meaning it will be a 10, meaning if it won't execute the equal part, and it will go ahead and run, it will run the equal again, because if it's not equal, it will jump this or omit this jump, then go ahead and run this code over here, because as you can remember, assembly runs the program from top to bottom. So if it is not equal, it will just jump this statement and go ahead over here. So you may ask, how can we solve that? But before solving that, let us maybe make it equal and just see what will happen. So if I make it 10-10, so let me assemble it. elf32, named it -o cmp.o, then link it again -m elf i386, yes, then followed by the object file, and now our binary cmp. So if we run this, we're expecting to see equal, because 10 and 10 are equal. So cmp, so you can see we have an equal. So let us test it again. Let us change something and let us return it how it was in a state where it's not equal. Now we can go ahead and compile it again like that. So let me link it and let us run it. It still prints equal, and I will explain to you why it does that. Because if here the subtraction operation will be done behind the hood, so which will give a non-zero, which will give 10, meaning that it's not equal, which this jump if equal will not execute. Then it will go to the next line, which is the following line over here. So because the way assembly runs its program is from top to bottom, it won't ignore this label over here. It will execute it irregardless. So how can we solve this issue? So we'll go ahead and do something, and maybe we can define another label, meaning we can come here and call this exit. So if it's not equal, if it comes here and the number is not equal, we want to jump direct to the exit part, so skipping this equal part. So what we'll do, we'll use again the jump statement as we have seen. Then again define the label where we want to jump, which is the exit part. So this is where we're exiting, one for sys exit, EBX the status code, and now the interrupt finally. So this is how we will short circuit this comparison. So let us test it and see what we'll see. But to test, let me put some number like 100 in order, like we can maybe see if it has redirected here in our case, because 20 and 10 are not equal. So I will save, then assembly, link it, CMP. So you can see nothing has happened. And if we see if we inspect the return status code like that, we see the value 200. So there is a key takeaway over here, which is confusing at first. So if the subtraction over here is not 0, it won't execute this jump. So it will go ahead. So in our example, maybe at first we didn't have that. We didn't have the exit part. But what it will do, because the value is not equal, it will not execute this jump. Else it will go to the next statement and execute everything over here. But if you want to short circuit it, you can, if it's not equal here, we don't want to execute what is below that. We want to jump straight to the exit. So this is the basics of comparison, but we'll be looking more on conditionals. So don't worry, this is just a foundation or an overview of what it entails. And we'll be seeing more of this in action as we go on with our series. So if you have any question about this video, you can ask, and I'll be happy to help you. And if this video has been helpful to you, subscribe, leave a comment, and just turn on the notification bell for when I drop a new video, you'll be notified. So thank you for your time, and see you on the next.